Food is out, is people are coming in if they need 2 boxes and
KFGO News 206. It's currently 29 degrees in Fargo-Moorhead, high near 30 today. And tonight we'll see mostly cloudy skies, high 15 to 20. A weekend house fire in Grand Forks has killed a 40-year-old woman while another person was rescued. Firefighters were dispatched to the house shortly after 2 Saturday morning. One of the residents called for help and told dispatchers they were trapped in the house. First responders were able to see the person through a side window. Firefighters entered the home and were able to get the person out of the house through the window. Firefighters found the second person and both were taken to Altru, where Sarah Gatika died. The cause of the fire is under investigation. U.S. Senate Democrats push to change the chamber's filibuster rules in an effort to pass voting right measures has no Republican support. Democrats accuse Republicans of making it more difficult for people to vote. This is U.S. Senator Tina Smith.
We're lucky in Minnesota. I'm grateful in Minnesota that we have strong voting rights laws, but that is not the case in every state, and that's the danger.
Senate is set to take up voting right legislation tomorrow. A vote to change Senate rules to allow passage by a simple majority also is expected to fail, since at least 2 Democratic senators have said they would not vote in favor of the changes. A blood shortage continues to impact hospitals and blood banks across the country. Vitalant Regional Director of Donor Recruitment, Jennifer Breedall in Fargo, says it's affecting doctors and patients.
Physicians are having to, they know the concern right now throughout hospitals across the country, and they're having to really look at their patient list and see what surgery needs to happen, which ones can be delayed, what treatment can go with less blood than what they typically would use. It's not a good spot to be if you're a patient. Families and patients have enough to worry about. This is something they should not have even in their thought process.
Breedall says about 3% of the population donates, but it isn't enough. With it being National Donor Month, Vitalant is having a $5,000 giveaway to attract more donors. A proposed science museum for Fargo-Moorhead has received a $1 million donation from a business leader. Leaders with the Fargo-Moorhead Science Museum say the gift from John Ballantine will help with the planning and feasible studies. Ballantine is the co-founder of the Fargo biological science company Aldeveron and serves as its chief scientific officer. The museum focuses on study of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM. The plan includes a mobile STEM classroom. Aldeveron began in a laboratory at North Dakota State University in 1998 and has grown to include sites in Madison, Wisconsin, and Freiburg, Germany. KFGO Weather Center forecast. Mostly cloudy this afternoon. High near 30 today. Tonight, mostly cloudy. Chance for light snow overnight. 15 to 20 will be the low. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy. We'll also have a chance for light snow, patchy blowing and drifting snow. High of 25 to 30. Wednesday, partly sunny. High of 5 to 10 below. Thursday, sunny. High of 5 to 10 below. And Friday, partly sunny. Chance of light snow. Highs 20 to 25. I'm Madison Quinn, News Radio, KFGO.
I just don't get why we have to have all these fancy words for things that could just as easily be as straightforward as saying, look, this is a meat and cheese tray. For what you don't see and hear off during the breaks, during the commercials, during the news updates is how we rag on each other as friends, as coworkers. And I said charcuterie. It's a charcuterie board, right?
I mean, it's like 80%, right? So, you get a passing grade.
Yeah, that is a pass for me. But, I mean, we grew up just saying, look, it's the meat and cheese tray. And then you got the olives on the side. So you had the glass crystalware, right, that had the imprints on, especially during the holidays. You didn't have the fancy cutting boards. Everyone had the same glass plates that maybe had a couple dividers on. You threw the pickles The cheese, the crackers, whatever pastrami, probably just actually a summer sausage cut up. Let's be real.
Sure.
As a meat and cheese tray.
Yep.
Nothing about a charcuterie board.
Char.
I'm sticking with what I said. I'm sticking with what I go with. Char.
Think SH, not CH.
Yeah, I know. JJ actually said, no, it's like a charcuterie board. They always been called that. What's the difference between a charcuterie board and just a good old-fashioned meat and cheese tray? And what you have got, the pickles, the olives. I mean, all the things that come with now what people want to call it. I mean, does it make people feel better by saying, oh, that's the charcuterie
Well,
board?
Anytime that you add a different language into the pronunciation of things, you feel high and mighty about yourself, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm sticking with the meat and cheese
It's
tray.
got, to prove the point, it's got a certain je ne sais quoi.
Oh, God. That's how we're going to start today, huh? English, please.
It's got a certain something.
That's it? That's what that meant? Say it in that other foreign language again?
Je ne sais quoi.
That sounds a lot fancier than. Yeah, it's got
See,
something
I told
about
you. It sounds fancier.
Yeah. I
It's
don't
more
know.
fun to say.
Is that what in your minds out there? You can go ahead and iConsultants of North Dakota text club 35270. Where do you draw the line by saying, okay, that's the charcuterie board versus go get the meat and cheese tray with the pickles and the olives? And those are the only two other things you had, right? There's nothing else that you put on, these platters.
Yeah, I think
the glass
in
crystal.
the fancier ones, you'll find an assortment of salted cured meats.
Summer sausage ain't good enough for some people?
Yes, it is not good enough for some people. It is good enough for this guy.
Yeah. 35270. Meat and cheese tray and a relish tray. Yep. See, you're onto it. Tyler, there isn't a dang thing different between the two of them other than person thinks they sound more sophisticated if they don't say meat and cheese tray. That's what I'm getting at here.
Yeah.
It's a meat and cheese tray. And I'm going to stick with meat and cheese tray, and nobody's going to stop me. 237-594 it. But if people don't have to be so brass in how they try to correct you either.
Well, hey, I would make fun of you for mispronouncing names just the same, and you would do the same to me. I've always contended, if I am not making fun of you for simple mistakes,
right. That means
it's
something's
a way
actually
bigger
wrong.
issue than when I am.
We call her a Hornbacher's tray, and it's made of plastic. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, so you could go to your local grocery store and just buy this on those plastic trays.
Yeah, that look like cut glass.
Yes. See, now here's the thing: we did have the real glassware. That I mean, they were not pleasant to touch. They had like little sharp edges around these things.
Where they actually have the little
jagged
lines
edges,
and sharp cuts into the glass.
So fancy.
Probably took somebody weeks to build each one.
Mm-hmm. And then all we did was put crackers and pickles and olives in it.
And then it sat in a cupboard for 364 more days.
You had a Christmas Day and Thanksgiving Day, and that's the only time you take out the meat and cheese tray on the glass crystal because they had to be fancy. And the other time of the year, you can still have your meat and cheese tray, but it's on a paper plate. Okay, I'll switch gears here. I got other messages coming. We can talk about meat and cheese trays, charcuterie boards, whatever you want to call it, all you want, and we can do so. It's Monday afternoon. Feels like a Monday, but we'll get you to that 5 o'clock punch out together. We are going to be talking about the weekend that was in sports. Lots to uncover. Dallas Cowboys. How about them boys? We'll talk about that just a little bit later on Derek Hansen. But I want to direct your attention, if you didn't have a chance over the weekend, and there's journalists in the area who garner a lot of respect for their work. I'm proud to work with a number of them in the KFGO studio in the newsroom over there. But Kevin Wallivan with WDAY TV does a great job as well. And I always appreciate his work. And reading his piece over the weekend about what low morale of the exit interviews from people in the Fargo Police Department catches your attention. And it should, when you think about the number of people that are leaving, resigning, retiring, going maybe to a different department. And I think it's been pretty abundantly clear, if you're a regular listener, that it's not isolated to Fargo PD, that this is something that you're seeing across the board. I wonder how much of that does play a factor in it. But here's where you have to pay attention when it comes to the exit interviews and what was revealed in some of those. That's where this conversation is going to go. And what I think is appropriate is trying to figure out How do you build on the recruitment and the retention? And I know that is something that since the report came out, and this is something that I don't know that I have seen very often, but following Kevin Wallivan's report, you have the Fargo PD come out with adding what they're saying additional context to this whole situation. Now, here's what I know: there's going to be a meeting held in the next 24 hours, and I don't know if it's going to be a public meeting. I don't know if they're going to try to find a way, say, oh, it's a brown bag meeting. So it's just kind of a working. It's nothing formal. I do think that they will allow members of the media in, which they should, to really dive into this. But if you had a chance to read the report, I'll come back after this quick break and give you some of the tidbits from there. And undoubtedly, this is probably just the beginning of it. But I want to hear from you. 35270, the iConsultants of North Dakota Text Club. In fact, I already have some of those in here. I will get back to all of that and more coming up right after this. I'm Tyler Axis. We're just getting started Monday afternoon here on KFGO.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page, and send us a text anytime at 35270.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Derek
Mighty
Hansen,
790.
Couch Potato Radio. Did you see that
from It Takes Two.
Doug Miller with the morning crew this morning.
News Radio.
Amy Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michael, Voice of Sports.
Too tall,
Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah
7.
Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
So today on MSUM campus we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless. So.
Tyler, I'm going to go with the meat and cheese tray because I can't spell the other one. That's a rule that I could live by as well. Unfortunately, I can't always enunciate and pronounce them either. That's a tough position to be in as a radio talk show host. So I'll stick with the meat and cheese tray as well. More at the serious topic here to kick off a Monday conversation with you is, again, with this report that came out with Kevin Wallivan about the Fargo Police Department. And, according to this report, that 33 people have left the department in the last 14 months. And when it comes to the reasoning on exit interviews, and I'm summarizing, I would encourage you to go check out the latest from Kevin Wallivan, take it from there. But when it comes to the morale of the department, and I think you could probably take that and sprinkle that into departments probably across the nation. But why, if you look at this region here, is Fargo being the one that's impacted what appears to be the most in this fluctuation. And I'm going to get to this message here, and then sure. So, Tyler, the police department, low morale, is not just a police department issue, but a citywide issue in many departments. HR is well aware of this, but just has turned a blind eye for a long time. From what I've heard from many department employees, the police department has taken the hardest hit of this issue. Now, that text reminds me of the conversation, the debate. I couldn't believe how outraged some people were when we're trying to give $1,000 to city employees as a bonus, as a thank you for continuing, to do what we expected of you, regardless of weather, regardless of this pandemic. I mean, that was the thank you. And for whatever reason, people were up in arms about that. That I do assume that this is, one of those things that's not just isolated to this department, but perhaps across city. But also, when I look at headlines and what over the last 18 months has led to here in this whole, remember we call it the Great Resignation, in which you've got people quitting jobs or going and taking something else. The ones that seem to be at the forefront of losing people are law enforcement, or police departments, nurses, and teachers. And if that's going to be a continuing trend, those people that are, quite frankly, I think, so intricate into our day-to-day lives, and now we're losing them at mass droves. And I don't know that with the way of which the world has turned now, that you're going to be as successful recruiting people to want to go into these jobs. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've sat in this chair and I've looked at this text club that many of you choose to interact with me with, and I do appreciate that, at the I-Consultants of North Dakota 35270. I mean, you could talk about any of the major events that has captured the nation's attention. I mean, it doesn't have to go very far to look at the Derek Chauvin, in which he was rightfully convicted, in my opinion. But you can think about Kim Poderick, and that's just a hop, skip, and a jump from here. You can look at what was going on when he had the protests that at times, and that includes right here in Fargo, turned to riots. And the way of which that's split this conversation into two, saying, well, how could you condone this and not support that, this, that, the other thing? But one thing has been consistent from you as you're gathering thoughts around this and sharing them is the fact that why would anybody want to go be a police officer now with the way of which the conversation has turned on a variety of issues, whether it's excessive force, body cameras, accountability, the hours, the way of which it takes away from family, the just sheer danger of the job. So I say that as a preface to where, okay, I think that's an underlying current nationally, and I think that's what Chief Dave Zabolski is trying to say. Look, yeah, we're facing it just as the nation is when it comes to trying to find and fulfill a department. But when you're thinking about 33 potential people that have left, and if they're pointing at what's going on inside the department itself, the morale is just down, they're saying, then you got to start looking internally. I mean, you do. You have to figure out what is happening inside this department that could be improved upon. Now, I do think that when it comes to the introduction of the advisory board, okay, I thought that was innovative. You have another means of which you're going to connect with the community. Maybe that lowers the temperature. Maybe that brings that level of conflict and tension that might not have been as high here in Fargo as you've seen elsewhere, but certainly was there. But here's the thing. After that was introduced and after that was approved, and it wasn't unanimously approved, the interest from the public just doesn't seem to be there. We can gripe about it. We can complain about A, B, and C as to how things are going. But if you don't take that role to be a part of the solution, then I guess we're just complaining. But the other aspect of this is you've got, and I've had the opportunity to visit with Chief Zabolski a handful of times. Been respectful. There's times where I've agreed. There's times where I've certainly disagreed. I think about the banning or trying to eliminate the indoor bow hunting season, for example. I thought that was a fight that he picked for really no good reason. And I think it backed up on him. And I'm thinking about how you try to, as a public servant, try to figure out which areas, all right, if we're going to have a conversation about changing things here, how you you reserve for the right time and the right issue to go after. That one misstep for me, and I hope that got resolved. And in fact, I'm kind of winking and nodding at you through these airwaves for those outdoorsmen and women that utilize the program. Has there been a resolution on that? Because I haven't seen much of a follow-up here. But during that conversation, a lot of people, again, texting into our text club, saying that you have got a new police chief that doesn't seem to understand this area. And that's from the residents listening to me now. And I'm just reiterating that for you. So there seems to be a disconnect from, I think, some of the public to what Chief Zabolski is doing. And I don't know if that's a communication issue or what it might be, but this certainly does add another level of intrigue and another level of, quite frankly, concern as to how things are being handled at this given moment. Now, what I'm going to be curious about tomorrow is whether or not there's any decisions, because in making the calls, now nobody wants to come on air publicly today, and I get that to an extent, especially those that are going to be at that meeting that don't want to add and provide their judgment before hearing everything out. So I can respect that. But tomorrow I hope we get some answers. Because what some of the speculation is this the beginning of the end of this situation with this chief? And quite frankly, does that back up to others that are going to be running for office to be on either the city commission or, quite frankly, the mayor of Fargo? People are wondering where Tim Mahoney is in this whole situation and how it got to this point. Thoughts are coming in at 35270. I will get to that right after this KFGO News. Don't go anywhere.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out. Right. And just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just getting the greatest good. We're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. The hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11. And volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
2:30, we have 29 degrees in Fargo-Moorhead. I'm Madison Quinn. Fatal crash early yesterday on I-94 exit 8 miles east of Tampa, North Dakota. State Patrol says 20-year-old Brett Haar lost control of his pickup on the ice-covered roadway and rolled, and his truck ended up on its roof. Haar of Steele, North Dakota, wasn't wearing a seatbelt at the time and was ejected from the pickup and died on scene. A weekend house fire in Grand Forks has killed a 40-year-old woman while another person was rescued. Firefighters were dispatched to the house shortly after 2 Saturday morning. One of the residents called for help and told dispatchers they were trapped in the house. First responders were able to see the person through a side window. Firefighters entered the home and were able to get the person out of the house through that window. Firefighters found a second person, and both were taken to Altru Hospital, where Sarah Gatika died. Cause of the fire is under investigation. The official Minnesota State celebration of Martin Luther King has again been held virtually. A variety of speakers took part.
He dreamt that the American dream would be accessible to all and would be rooted in love, justice, and equality. But that world is one that we're still working to create. Dr. King's words continue to ring true, and his legacy continues to inspire us to work to build a more just and loving society.
That's Governor Tim Walz. 29 degrees in Fargo-Moorhead, KFGO News Time 2:31. .29 degrees in Fargo-Moorhead. You're listening to KFGO News. 36-year-old man was arrested after firing a handgun at Wilmer, Minnesota police during a traffic stop and fleeing into a neighborhood. Police say one round was fired at an officer who was not hit or injured. The man ran into a neighborhood where police used drones and aircraft to search for him. After a robotic camera confirmed that the suspect was inside a garage, SWAT teams used tear gas and the battering ram attached to a vehicle to take him into custody. The man was found with self-inflicted injuries and was taken to a hospital. He was released later and taken to the Kandiyohi County Jail. Minnesota State Fair has announced slight ticket price increases.
Admission will be $17 this year for adults, up $1 from last year. Kids ages 5 through 12 and adults over 64 can get in for $15. Those 4 and under can get in for free. The pre-fair ticket sale is also at a discount right now for $13 each. That goes up to $14 in February. Hours are also being adjusted this year. The fairgrounds will be open from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Thursday through Sunday and 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Labor Day. The fair runs this year from August 25th through September 5th.
That's KFGO News correspondent Scott Peterson. The KFGO Weather Center forecast: mostly cloudy this afternoon, high near 30. Southwest wind around 10 miles an hour. Tonight, overnight low 15 to 20, mostly cloudy. Chance of light snow again overnight. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy. The chance of light snow as well. Highs 25 to 30. And Wednesday, partly sunny. Patching and blowing and drifting snow. High 5 to 10 below. I'm Madison Quinn, News Radio, KFGO.
No markets today in honor of Martin Luther King Day, but Rusty Halverson did file some reports for us. In fact, there's no school today either, but the school nutrition program, something that we should be talking about because the whole supply chain issue and what that's doing to school lunches, that's a conversation for another day. But before Rusty was out, he did file this report. Take a listen.
The federal government recently invested more funding into the school lunch program, and Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack says USDA plans to offer some guidance on the future assistance very soon. In December, USDA announced $1 billion in supply chain mitigation funds. An additional $750 million was recently announced in a mid-year adjustment to the typical reimbursement rate. Normally, that would not happen in the middle of a school year. Speaking to reporters, Vilsack said school lunch programs need the funds to adapt to changes from their suppliers.
This is a very unusual circumstance and situation where traditional suppliers to schools are essentially either going out of that business and redirecting their attention.
Vilsack says more food being eaten at home is forcing suppliers to adjust their business models. As things stand right now, Vilsack says USDA does not have any plans for more financial help.
I don't know that. But what I do know is that we're doing what we can today to make it easier for these folks to do what they're doing.
Vilsack says USDA is working to give schools a better understanding of the reimbursement picture for the next few years,
so that they can begin making the decisions and planning decisions that they have to make.
That is Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack, and I'm Rusty Halverson.
Halverson here with another Agri News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Dear
Mighty
Kansas
790.
Couch Potato Radio. Did you see that
from It Takes Two?
Doug Miller with the morning crew this morning.
Jerkins News Radio.
Amy Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Forces.
Too tall,
Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Access your home.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just giving the greatest good. We're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page. And send us a text anytime at 35270.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is
quite frankly, was playing out over the weekend. Why I say playing out because it was not only the report, but you're on Twitter and you're seeing that the police department here in Fargo wanted to put out a statement following a report that came out. That also seemed as though something I don't recall seeing maybe more than 1 or 2 times prior. And I think actually both times was from the Fargo PD to other reporting, at least on the television side that I recall. But the response from the police department saying, look, that report left out a variety of things that we discussed And, when it comes to journalists and those who I think have earned the respect because of the fantastic work they've done, it's tough to say that Kevin Wallivan is not one that does quite a good job in creating that balance here. What I find interesting is if you take into account some of the exit interview reports that are out there saying that, internally they've got to recognize that there is an issue when it comes to morale around here. And then you read the comment that followed the report, and it didn't seem as though that really is the case. That perhaps it is still that this is some national trend, which I don't doubt does play a role, because that's what I was building up to. You've got people leaving all types of employment positions. In fact, I think, as I was saying, the ones that are the most troubling are the ones that probably are undergoing the most stressful experiences right now, given this climate, than before. Law enforcement, nurses, and teachers. I mean, nursing is facing a shortage as well. That was happening before, but I think it accelerated because of the environment and just how that went from they're heroes to now you just don't even want to listen at times to their advice. And I don't mean you, but some people out there that just, quite frankly, have become rude in certain areas when it comes to the advice and requests from our nursing. And then, of course, you got teachers as well. But when it comes to those three areas in which you're seeing people leave and you're not being able to recruit, and I don't know what turns that around. I don't think you can just throw money at the issue. And that's not what was being requested from what necessarily I was viewing in these exit interviews. Is about balancing work life, which, again, I think over the course of the last 18, 20 months, that's something we all started to take a little bit more serious, is trying to figure out how you can actually balance out everything here. So when I read into the exit interviews, it doesn't seem like anything's necessarily over the top. It seems reasonable. Now, tomorrow you're probably going to be hearing what's being done or what has been done to try to alleviate some of this, if there has been something. Because if the Fargo PD is going to put out a statement like they did following the report saying, we're trying to address this, why didn't you include that? Then you better have the receipts to back that up. So that's going to be something I'm watching tomorrow. And then, quite frankly, what leadership does, if anything, not just from the police department itself, but from those that were tasked with hiring the next police chief. I know that there was questions at the time as to why hire someone outside and not somebody internally. And I think those questions are now being elevated yet again, at least from the people that I have visited with that are trying to figure out how over the last 18 or 14 months, whatever it was, you got 33 people leaving. 35270, that's the iConsultants of North Dakota Text Club. That's where I'm going to go. Tyler, as far as the Community Police Advisory Board, I see a common thread between the reluctance to serve on that and the reluctance to attend district political party meetings. People don't want to take the time and get involved. Maybe they don't feel they have anything to offer. The fact remains, there are major decisions, recommendations being made that will affect their lives. Part of being a citizen is responsibility to participate. Yeah, I mean, I can't find an area which I disagree with or can argue on any of that. You have the time consumption of it all. It's tough work if you want to do it seriously and take the role of being that public servant as importantly as what it is. Quite frankly, a lot of it's thankless. I mean, it really is. You go in, you spend the time, you dedicate yourself, and then at times it feels like you're probably banging your head against a wall at the end of the day because what you're trying to build up towards might not be going as smoothly as what you had hoped. But for all the things in which I've disagreed with at times, I thought at least providing this concept out there was something. Let's try this. Let's be innovative here. This was from Chief Zabulski. I admired it. Now it's on everyone else to actually be invested, to actually take part in it. Now, and this is going to feed into what the critics were saying. I think about Commissioner Dave Pepcorn saying, look, we don't need this because that's what the city commission is for. We're supposed to be that advisory board. We're the conduit for the public to be providing commentary to, say, this department. And right now, it certainly seems from the outside looking in that Dave Pepcorn, in hindsight, is probably winning that argument if you don't have the buy-in from the public that the chief was trying to get at. But when it's all said and done, tomorrow you're going to be finding out whether or not this is the beginning of any roads to correction, whether there's going to be any insight as to whether or not you're going to have a personnel change, or if we're just going full steam ahead, somebody gets a slap on the wrist saying, figure it out. So I think tomorrow's going to be quite interesting from everything I'm hearing from people that are observers, from people who are going to be at that meeting, and quite frankly, people that have been around these departments prior to this report coming out. 237-5948, that's the Laney studio line. You can also text in to the iConsultants of North Dakota text club. I'm broadcasting today, by the way, from the Outlet Recreation Studio. I want to thank them for sponsoring today's show and throughout this week here. Come back to more of your thoughts. I want to get you a weather update. I know Too Tall Tom was away today, so I believe our very own Eric Johnson might be providing the latest for you on there. More messages coming in. I will continue on with that. To the top of the hour, Barry Nelson. At Martin Luther King Day, there's celebration, there's events, there's a call to action. He's going to tell you what you can do locally here in the FM area. Stick around.
Forecast from the KFGO Weather Center. For the rest of today, high near 30 degrees. Winds out of the southwest, shifting to the north around 10 miles an hour. Tonight, mostly cloudy. Chance of some light snow overnight. Lows in that upper teens area with southeast winds 5 to 15, gusting up to 25. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, continued chance of some light snow with some patchy blowing and drifting areas as winds will be 25 to 30. And for tomorrow night, mostly cloudy areas of some blowing snow and drifting, a low of 5 to 10 below zero. It's currently 29 degrees at the KFGO studios. More Afternoons Live at Tyler Access coming up right after this.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page, and send us a text anytime at 35270.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out. Right. And just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just getting the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
Rusty Halverson here with another Dynamite News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Derek Hansen, Couch Potato Radio. Did you see that
from It Takes Two.
Doug Miller with the morning crew this morning.
News Radio.
Amy Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voice of Sports.
Too tall.
Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Access, your home.
I missed this conversation. I'm trying to think. The last time, have you ever had an exit interview? Eric Johnson, producer of the show. I mean, have you ever been, all right, here's your opportunity to be completely honest about your experience and what can be approved upon? Because I don't know that I've ever, in the roles that I've had. Now, granted, in an elected office, you don't get that opportunity.
You don't get to talk to the people of North Dakota and ask them why they didn't want you in there for a little while longer.
Right? What's wrong with you heathens? No, but I mean, like, seriously, I mean, through college, I don't know that I ever had an exit interview. Yeah. And by the time I'm out of here, it's probably because we're going to have my stuff packed in an office, and I'm not going to have that opportunity again.
Yeah, no, I have not, although I've never really had a job that is a thing. I mean, when we stopped farming, I didn't have a sit down with my old man and be like, well, here's what I really think about what we've been doing.
I've kept notes as to your leadership style and your presence on the job day to day.
Similarly at the bar, not that.
Wade didn't want to get your opinions on how he could have been a better manager?
No, he didn't. Although
I got a thing or two I could share about Wade.
Yeah, but see, there's that
blend
of professional and personal interactions.
If you get fired before I get fired, I'll give you an exit interview, okay?
Oh, I like it. I like
Just be as brutally honest.
Vice versa.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
We'll sit down.
I will be very candid about what did work and what certainly could be improved upon going forward. 35270. iConsultants in North Dakota. That's the Text Club. Laney's, they sponsor our studio line at 237-5948. We're talking, and we'll wrap up. I want to get into the Martin Luther King celebrations going on here in the area today. And quite frankly, the call to action, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of politicians, I should say, utilizing today and going on their social media accounts, or having staff do so, sharing the word and the wisdom of Martin Luther King, but they're certainly not living up to the ideals that were brought forward in those very remarks that they're sharing. And that's not just a partisan shot. So if you're thinking I'm only talking about those on the Republican side, there are Democrats doing that as well. So we'll have that conversation a little bit later on. I want to get back to the Text Club, though, about it's about this situation, but a much bigger lack of participation these days, and a lot of things. Hell, I just heard an advertisement, a promo for News and Views, talking about participation in church, for example. People just aren't getting as involved in things anymore when it comes to community. I'm curious, what in your mind is the reason? Why don't you perhaps go out and are a part of groups, volunteer groups, or you think about I think about the Shriners, for example. I don't know if participation is up to where it should be, if they're having difficulty recruiting, or if you think about just involved in your local legislative district, involved in your city commission. There are things that I think people were willing and, quite frankly, more wanting and to go out and have a say in this, put their name up for something, do the work outside of being in the office or being at the shop or being behind the wheel, whatever it is, profession. I think participation in those community, those civic aspects have dipped. And that's what some people are getting at here. But it just got my gears turning as to why do you think it is? Why aren't you? Is it the time? Is it the fact that, you know what, you want to spend more time with family, which is admirable. I mean, nobody's going to argue with that. I'm just wondering why we're pulling back more now. We've got the ability to be more connected and have more of an influence, I think, now than perhaps ever before. And yet it seems as though the opposite is happening for the most part. Or am I just completely misgauging this? Here's what some people have said. Tyler, people really don't have a lot of information on how to serve on an advisory board. Those that do are already on 3 or 4 boards, but social media has caused many people to evaluate being on any public service capacity. The attacks were horrible. The latter part, yeah, there's no argument you're going to have for me as far as if you put your name out there. I think it it's easier now for people to go ahead and question or criticize publicly, and it becomes very easy to have those criticisms go well beyond the letter you get in your mailbox. That used to be the way of which your constituent or whoever it is that hired you, and that's what people have to remember. I mean, you are getting hired for these positions in public service. I mean, they would send you a letter criticizing or whatever. Now it's just, I'm going to go make a public post, and it's going to be shared, it's going to be clicked, it's going to be commented on. And it seems to diminish people's want to actually participate because of the potential that could happen to you. I mean, I think that you cannot ignore the way of which we interact with each other as being a part of why people don't want to do the job. Whether that is going back to my list of the ones that concern me the most of law enforcement, being a nurse, or being a teacher, because those have now also become under the spotlight of any criticism that goes on to the handling of how you've done something, to the likes of which is so easily shared worldwide now that it wasn't the case before. But it's not the only reason. I'm curious. Answer it. Explain it to me why fewer people are showing up to these very important meetings, because those local, smaller meetings build on to what ultimately becomes people at the higher levels as well. Let me know at 237-594. That's Laney's studio line. Also, the Icon Sons of North Dakota Text Club, of which many of you choose to interact with the show at 35270. We'll continue this conversation. Also, we'll talk about sports with Derek Hansen. But before all that, Martin Luther King Day is today. Some of you, in fact, have the day off in observance of that. But Barry Nelson, he's the North Dakota Human Rights Coalition, the head honcho over there. He's part of the group that's putting together today's celebration. He's going to tell you all about that when we come back after CBS News. We'll check back in with KFGO News as well. I'm Tyler Axis. Stick around.
Roberson here with another Dynamite News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Derek Hansen, Couch Potato Radio. Did you see that
from It Takes Two?
Doug here with the morning crew this morning.
News Radio.
Amy Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voice of Sports.
Too tall.
Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page, and send us a text anytime at 35270.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just getting the greatest good. We're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. get out of the hospital last night. And I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. You know, that's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just getting the greatest good. We're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
Horace here with another Untitled News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Here,
Mighty
Kansas
790.
Couch Potato Radio. Did you see
from
that?
It Takes Two.
Doug here with the morning crew this morning.
Jerkins News Radio.
Katie Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Forces.
Too tall.
Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page, and send us a text anytime at 35270.
Or on this date in history, a few items for you. Matt Drudge broke the Clinton Lewinsky story in 1998. 1 year later, Gary Anderson's missed field goal cost the Minnesota Vikings a trip to the Super Bowl in 1999. Sorry, I had to. I apologize. I had to.
Hey, we spent a full segment on the Minneapolis Miracle
we did,
a couple days ago.
And then
so.
I had to shower afterwards. So that, but also Betty White would have turned 100 today. James Earl Jones, he did turn 91 today. So that's some of the things happened on this date, January 17th. Here's what's coming up. It's also Martin Luther King Day. There's events going on across the region, including right here in Fargo. Barry Nelson, he is with the North Dakota Human Rights Coalition. He's going to tell you about what you can expect, how you can participate, and what needs to be done moving forward. All that and more coming up right after this KFGO News.
KFGO News, Fargo-Moorhead, it is cloudy, 29. I'm Paul Juergens. A man who has been suffering from a severe case of COVID-19 has been kept alive by a ventilator, has been moved from a Twin Cities hospital to a Texas hospital after a judge issued a restraining order stopping the hospital from turning off the machine. Scott Quiner of Buffalo was a patient at Mercy Hospital in Coon Rapids. According to the family's attorney, he was flown to Texas over the weekend. Atlanta Health, which runs Mercy Hospital, issued a statement saying it is grateful the family was able to find a health care center that will meet their needs. An Anoka County judge granted a petition from Quiner's wife that prevented Mercy from disconnecting the ventilator. 3 men have been arrested for the burglary of a home under construction near Horace.
The Cass County Sheriff's Office says a resident reported suspicious activity early this morning. The caller was able to provide deputies with a vehicle description and a direction of travel. Deputies spotted the vehicle about 3 miles west of Horace and conducted a traffic stop. 28-year-old Cody Foster and 24-year-old Alex Gary were arrested for felony burglary. As deputies searched the property, 24-year-old Timothy Macy was also arrested. All 3 are from Fargo. Madison Quinn News Radio, KFGO.
A 37-mile ice highway in northern Minnesota that takes drivers across Lake of the Woods to the northernmost part of the contiguous U.S. is open for the second straight year. The toll is $250 per vehicle. The road costs an estimated $1,500 a mile for plowing and other upkeep. It begins in War Road and ends at the Northwest Angle Resort Community. A highway allows people to bypass a drive into Canada or get there in a vehicle rather than a plane or a snowmobile. The Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber has announced that TV personality and New York Times bestselling author Mike Rowe will be the keynote speaker for the 2022 Voices of Vision event in Fargo. Rowe is best known as the Dirtiest Man on TV, a title he earned on the iconic TV series Dirty Jobs. His charity foundation, Mike Rowe Works, has granted millions of dollars in work ethic scholarships. In his spare time, Rowe keeps a lively conversation with more than 8 million followers on social media. The event will be Thursday, April 21st at the Sanford Health Athletic Complex in Fargo. KFGO Weather Center forecast will stay cloudy this afternoon, mostly cloudy tonight then. Little light snow is a possibility overnight, 15 to 20 for the overnight low. A light southeast wind, winds picking up toward morning. Then tomorrow, mostly cloudy, chance of light snow, patchy blowing and drifting snow, 25 to 30. Southerly winds and then northwest around 25 miles an hour with possible gusts tomorrow afternoon near 45. Tomorrow night, mostly cloudy. Areas of blowing and drifting snow, 5 to 10 below. Wednesday, partly sunny, maybe some additional patchy blowing and drifting snow, and the high only 5 to 10 below. Fargo-Moorhead, 29. Paul Juergens, News Radio, KFGO.
KFGO time is fast approaching 3:10 on a Monday, and it's not just any given Monday. It is Martin Luther King Day, and you know what? There's a lot of people out there celebrating. Some people have the day off in observance of this, but there's activities and there are things to be done here to explain in the metro area. One of those activities is Barry Nelson. He is the city's Human Rights Commission, and you know what? Or the North Dakota Human Rights Coalition, pardon me, part of all of that going on when it comes to planning this. Barry, how you been, man?
Tyler, it's really good to be here with you. I'm great.
Good. I'm glad to see the coordination being done on this. I know there's a lot of people in the community that are involved in this, but I was curious, if people have time, what should they be expecting if they want to go out and observe, celebrate the life that was Martin Luther King?
Well, I think they're gonna be very pleased with the kind of event they're going to find. It's going to be packed with a lot of great talent. There's going to be some wonderful speeches that carries Dr. King's legacy forward and applies it for today. There's going to be dancers. There's going to be music. There's going to be awards. We're going to be honoring people in our community who have been doing great work that again honors Dr. Martin Luther King. And it's particularly exciting because there's going to be a lot of young people on the stage. So I think there's a lot of hopefulness that's going to be communicated in this event this evening because of the people that are being awarded awards are working with youth, and there's youth on the stage talking about what Dr. Martin Luther King means to them. So I think there's going to be a really sobering reflection about where we need to go as a community and as a society, but there's going to be a lot of hope being communicated to us by the young people.
Well, that's one of the things that I think we're all trying to find is a little bit more hope on any given day here about what the future holds. And to hear that there's going to be some young people there. And given just the last, the conversation that's happened over the last 18 months when it comes to relations, with racial equality, all that, it's a very important day to actually highlight some of that. And one thing that I appreciate is, from what I've gathered from some of the people that you've been coordinating with, is there's basically a call to action going forward. Not just it's important to have a day of observance, of celebration of the legacy, but also how do you put that legacy to work going forward, Barry?
Absolutely. That was being challenged to us from the very beginning from many other people that helped put this together. And yeah, a good big shout out. We had some wonderful people from within the community who stepped up to help organize this, people within the BIPOC community, their African American community, have really stepped in. And one of the challenges is that it's not enough. This is not Dr. King's legacy that we get together one day out of the year and honor a person. It's what we take from that day and drive it into our actions going forward. So there's going to be a real challenge for everybody to come and think about what they are going to do to create. And they don't just use the term change. They talk about radical change, that we really need to personally make some radical commitments to making our community better.
So tell me the details. People want to show up, people want to watch online. Is that an option? Give me some of those just details about when, where, how people can participate, Barry.
Right, that's great. It's going to be at the Fargo Theater for people who wish to show up in person. That starts at 6:30. The doors open at 6. We are strongly recommending, we're in the middle of another COVID surge, so we are really asking people to wear masks. We will have masks available if people forgot to bring them. We want people who are there to be safe and well. For people who can't make it for one reason or another, we are streaming on live, so they go to ND Human Rights on Facebook. It will be live streamed there, again, starting at 6:30. It's also going to be recorded, and it will be put on YouTube and also the City of Fargo's TV channel, so people can actually watch it going forward.
Price of admission if you decide to attend in person?
Absolutely free. It's free and open to the public. We want people to come and enjoy.
Very good. Barry, I do want to ask a question about what the conversation's been leading up to, of course, today, and what we do using this observance to propel forward. But as I was saying earlier, there's been a lot of discussion over the last year about human rights, about equality, including right here in Fargo. I'm just curious, you're always at that table. Have we been heading in the right direction? Are the strides being made to where the conversation is going in that right direction, that arc of justice?
That's a really good question, Tyler, and I would say it's a mixed answer. I think we are making some progress. I do love to see the conversations that have been going on with law enforcement locally and nationally. I've seen great strides when the crisis we are reaching at was the number of black men particularly being shot and killed unarmed, and that needed to be brought to justice. And that's starting to happen, but it's not happening consistently. So yes, good conversations going on. There's a long ways to go. I'm really concerned about the conversations that go on around voter suppression. That really worries the heck out of me, because that's our one basic unique aspect of living in this country, is our ability and accessibility to vote. And anytime you start tampering with that, that really scares me. and we need to be very vigilant. One of the messages we're going to say from the stage and from throughout is that make sure you exercise your American freedom to go out and vote. We have a primary coming up in June. We have the general election in November. Make sure you go out, understand who the candidates are, and vote your values.
Very good. Barry, again tonight, 6:30 is a presentation down at the Fargo Theater.
Yes,
Very
that's
good.
right.
All right, Barry, I appreciate your time, man. I know how busy you are trying to get this thing rolling, so for the time you gave us, I'm grateful. You take care, and we'll talk again soon, all right?
Thanks so much. Good to be here.
Yep, you bet. Barry Nelson, he is with the North Dakota Human Rights Coalition, doing some of the work every day, not just today. Thoughts coming in at 35270. I do appreciate that on the iConsultants of North Dakota. There's one thing there, in particular, that Barry did touch on that I want to expand upon when it comes to voting, those rights. I know we're turned into, quite frankly, a heated conversation at the end of Thursday's show. But when you have people that have the ability to break down some of those barriers for some people to vote, and instead they're doing, quite frankly, the opposite, and then having today using their social media platforms to share the words of Martin Luther King, but not actually living up towards what he was saying in those remarks. We'll talk about that when we come back. I'm Tyler Axis. You got it locked into Afternoons Live on KFGO.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page, and send us a text anytime at 35270.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Horace in here with another Dynamite Agri News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Dear
Mighty
Kansas
790.
Couch Potato Radio. Did you see that?
From It Takes Two.
Doug here with the morning crew this morning.
News
Katie Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Forces.
Too tall,
Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just getting the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night, the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
Today, Martin Luther King Day, might even be people out celebrating the life and talking about the legacy. But there's also, and you see this on every national holiday, federal holiday, a lot of politicians in particular. And it's not isolated too. I mean, you see a lot of big businesses as well doing, they use the speeches, they use the remarks, the quotes, the ideals of Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. King, and they'll put it on a fancy photo with the quote, say, you know what, let's heed these words going forward. I mean, it's boilerplate stuff. But the thing is, if you're not actually following through on even the quotes you're sharing online, you look a little bit like a hypocrite. I mean, in particular here, you've got lawmakers at the federal level, at least from what I'm gathering locally here, saying the life and legacy, let's live up to the ideals of Martin Luther King. And some of them are the same individuals on the Senate side and in the House that voted against the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. You cannot be sitting here saying, we've got to work towards the ideals of Martin Luther King while you're standing in the way of those exact same ideals. I mean, you can pick any Republican on the national stage that's sharing this, but it's not just that. I think the person that has the most egg on their face today is Democrat Kyrsten Sinema out of Arizona, who's did a floor speech just last week. I don't even think it's been a full week yet, saying why she's going to continue to, basically stand in the way of implementing this voting rights package. But then today, sharing the words of Martin Luther King, does it bother you at all, or do you just shoulder shrug and say, well, that's what politicians are? I mean, it's just to watch the everyday, day-to-day communications, the approach as to, what they want to see done and what they don't want to see done, and then to use this day, quite frankly, exploit the language of an individual that had been calling for, quite frankly, the opposite of what you're doing now. I mean, some of this has to be called out. And that's why if you're going to be talking about the ideals, then you damn well better be demonstrating how you're working towards those, not only just on today, but going forward. That's why hearing here in Fargo, I'm sure there's a lot of events like this that are across the country that are mirroring this, saying it's one thing to come and observe. It's one thing to come and celebrate the influence, the impact that Martin Luther King had. It's another to take this as an opportunity to say, are we doing enough? And I think that going forward is a conversation is what can we be doing more of? I think the most obvious answer to me is allowing, not obstructing people to actually go out and exercise the right to vote. And I know that we had a conversation that started at the end of I think it was Thursday, which a lot of people left at 5 o'clock upset with me. And I'll explain why it should be difficult to have somebody go and vote. Why should it be illegal to have somebody go and hand somebody a bottle of water if they're standing in line, because those lines were created because you're diminishing how many polling places there are available to people? I mean, that's where things have gone. We can say that it's up to the rights of the states to administer these elections, which, yep, I'm fine with. But these states, in some cases, have been finding those areas to go around and make it more difficult, setting time constraints, setting to where you can't do this by mail, or you can't do a drop-off here. It's quite obvious to me that they're trying to make it more difficult in certain areas for people to vote. And if you're behind that and you're backing that, then you're not living up to the ideals that you're sharing on your social media accounts today. That's why when we're talking about at least the federal side that could have been done, and if you're going to be a Kyrsten Sinema saying, I'm going to stand in the way of this, you better not be sharing quotes today. It's not about a federal takeover of elections, is what you've been hearing from some of those same people sharing these Martin Luther King quotes today. It's at least having some guidelines that says you cannot obstruct someone's ability to go out and exercise their right to vote. I mean, today you're seeing a lot of the beautiful photos, maybe in front of the statue that's out in Washington, but you're not going to be seeing that same sentiment tomorrow or the next week, or certainly not when it comes up to this next election if it has anything to do with equal access to the ballot. And I take issue with that. I'm curious if you do at 35270. That's the Eye Consultants of North Dakota. You could also call me on the Laney studio line at 237-5948. Tyler, I have little doubt that people of color will save democracy. They're the ones who have been denied to the point of public lynchings. They know what it means to sacrifice for the right to be free. Now, I look at Georgia in particular, and I know that there is commentary about and the response to what I just laid out, people saying, well, I'm going to have this barrier, you cannot do this. And I think, quite frankly, and you're seeing it when it comes to the conversation about the pandemic, which people are saying, stop talking about this. I think in the course of the last hour and a half, you had one person who was a guest throw out that, look, if you're going down to the Fargo Theater, they're asking you to do this. But the more you're telling somebody to do it, the more you're going to have that response saying, you're not going to make me do it. And that, I think, goes when it comes to this vote down in Georgia in particular, where you've got people that are saying, look, if you're going to create these barriers, you bet your bottom dollar I'm going to find a way to go out and do it just to kind of rub it in your face. It shouldn't be that way, but I think that's a natural instinct that you're seeing more and more towards this. More messages coming in. I got to get you caught up with Paul Jurgens at the KFGO News Center. Rusty Hoverson away, but you know what? He did some work before he got out to enjoy the day. No markets in observance of Martin Luther King Day. And, of course, we'll have Derek Hansen Sports coming up as well. It is Monday afternoon. I'm Tyler Rexis, your host. You are listening to Afternoons Live on KFGO.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just getting the greatest good. We're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
News and weather this hour brought to you by Brad Field and Equitable Agri-Finance, providing long-term fixed-rate financing to America's farmers and ranchers.
Fargo-Moorhead, mostly cloudy, 29. I'm Paul Jurgens. 3 men have been arrested for the burglary of a home under construction near Horace. The Cass County Sheriff's Office says a resident reported suspicious activity this morning. The caller was able to provide deputies with a vehicle description and a direction of travel. Deputies spotted the vehicle about 3 miles west of Horace and conducted a traffic stop. 28-year-old Cody Foster and 24-year-old Alex Gary were arrested for felony burglary. As deputies searched the property, 24-year-old Timothy Macy was also arrested. All 3 are from Fargo. A blood shortage continues to affect hospitals and blood banks across the country. Vitalant Regional Director of Donor Recruitment Jennifer Bredahl in Fargo says it's affecting doctors and patients.
Physicians are having to, they know the concern right now throughout hospitals across the country, and they're having to really look at their patient list and see what surgery needs to happen, which ones can be delayed, what treatment can go with less blood than what they typically would use. It's not a good spot to be if you're a patient. Families and patients have enough to worry about. This is something they should not have even in their thought process.
Breedall says about 3% of the population donates blood, but that isn't enough. 29, this is KFGO News. '29, this is KFGO News. Senators Amy Klobuchar and Kevin Cramer in Ukraine with other lawmakers to offer support in the wake of continued Russian aggression. Klobuchar says the group felt it was important to visit Ukraine as a bipartisan delegation.
To say we're standing with Ukraine, and whether that means the assistance our country has given in large sums and continues to give, and equipment and the like, whether that means coordinating with our allies or whether it means simply giving our strong moral support.
Klobuchar says what happens in Ukraine matters in Minnesota. The state has a large Ukrainian-American population. A Minneapolis man is charged with killing his father by hitting him in the head with a hammer and stabbing him. 33-year-old Anthony Jolson is charged with second-degree murder in the death of his 58-year-old father. His bail's been set at $1 million. According to the criminal complaint, Jolson's brother had gone ice skating and returned home to find his father slumped over on the couch and unresponsive. The complaint said Jolson had specks of blood on his forehead and told his brother that he did something really bad and that the devil made him do it. A year-long effort at collecting race data to identify any potential bias in North Dakota's justice system will come to an end soon. The court rule that took effect in March 2021 requires prosecutors filing criminal complaints include the race of adults as perceived by law enforcement officers' reports. The committee will look at the data this spring and identify any issues or disparities. Workers who clear snow from runways and sidewalks at Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport have reached a tentative contract agreement with the Metropolitan Airports Commission. Teamsters Local 320 union representatives will present the contract to its members. It affects about 85 employees, including those who work at Holman Field, Crystal Air Lake, Flying Cloud, Anoka County Blaine, and Lake Elmo airports. A Sioux Falls woman is accused of faking her own kidnapping from a pizza restaurant. She told detectives she wanted a break from her husband. The woman has been charged with attempted grand theft and making a false report. The woman worked as a delivery driver and called her husband and said she was surrounded by multiple armed people who were demanding money. Police were able to track down the woman's phone. She was at a restaurant in Brookings where she was arrested. She later admitted that she had never been kidnapped. Fargo-Moorhead will stay mostly cloudy tonight, maybe some light snow. 15 to 20 for the overnight low. Winds picking up tomorrow, mostly cloudy. Chance of light snow, patchy blowing and drifting snow, 25 to 30. Southerly winds, 15 or so. And then out of the northwest, 25 miles an hour. And we will see gusts up near 45 miles an hour in the afternoon. Tomorrow night, mostly cloudy. Continued areas of blowing and drifting snow, 5 to 10 below. Partly sunny Wednesday, high of 5 to 10 degrees, 5 to 10 below zero. And then Wednesday night, 20 to 25 below. Fargo-Moorhead, cloudy, it's 29. Paul Jurgens, News Radio, KFGO.
No markets today because of Martin Luther King Day, but Rusty Halverson, you know what? That didn't stop him from filing a couple of reports. Last hour, we're talking about SNAP and when it comes to the lunch program, but also one thing that we didn't have a whole lot of last year, precipitation during the winter months. And in fact, we've had a little bit more here and what that might do to livestock. We'll have a visit with somebody about that. Take a listen to this.
North Dakota State University Extension recently hosted its monthly webinar on agricultural conditions as we work through the new year. NDSU livestock specialist Tim Petrie says he's still concerned about the weather as we move forward.
On the cattle and sheep side particular, my biggest concern obviously is the drought that we had and the pasture conditions, and that we're going to need rain now. Thankfully, particularly in southeastern North Dakota up to central North Dakota, we've had rain and the drought monitor looks a lot better, but not so much particularly in the Northwest. And so we have no control over the weather, but on the other hand, we need to make plans. And so as we get closer, that's a major concern, and we're going to have to make decisions earlier this year if the drought, looks like it's kind of holding around. So that's a big concern for me on the livestock sector.
Governor Doug Burgum, back on April 8th of last year, declared a statewide disaster, citing the worst drought this century. We'll see what lies ahead in 2022. I'm Rusty Halverson.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Robertson here with another News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Dear
Mighty
Kansas Couch
790.
Potato Radio. Did you see that
from It Takes Two.
Doug Miller with the morning crew this morning.
News Radio.
Katie Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Forces.
Too tall,
Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah
7.
Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page, and send us a text anytime at 35270.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just giving the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night, the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
Watch anything without seeing Jim Carrey. Very different story now.
Yeah, he still makes appearances occasionally, and he had I want to say it was on Cinemax. It could have been Showtime, a series where he played the host of a children's show, but it was kind of a dark comedy.
Oh,
I think it's called.
Heard nothing of.
I think it was called Kidding.
Okay, news to me. You have to pick one thing. So for future generations, right? I mean, yeah, you get to pick one movie that encompasses the ideal Jim Carrey for you.
Okay. Ooh.
What's the movie you go with? I mean, for me, it's obviously Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
Because that's the one that if it's on television, you sit and watch it no matter how many times. The original, not the Dumb and Dumber or Dumber 2, whatever it is.
So,
the original.
Because of the failed sequels, I might go Ace Ventura.
Ace Ventura that
2 is bad, but not as bad as the second Dumb and Dumber.
I think that is a fair addition to the conversation of the sequels diminishing the original. That's why I'm glad movies like Old School didn't get a remake or a number 2. But still, that one in of itself, if you only are introducing the future to one, and it's the original, then they know nothing of.
Right. Yeah. And so then I would say those would be kind of 1A. Pick your order. Dumb and Dumber definitely grabbed our generation and held on to it.
At that time, that was the most quoted movie for us.
Absolutely.
Running around in elementary school at the time. What was it, 94?
Yeah, 4 or 5. And it was every quote you could think of. But Ace Ventura had a touch of that too.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, how many already then?
You're making a case. You are making a pretty solid case as to why Ace Ventura is the second one that should introduce and not the first.
and you played football. How many times did you hear laces out, Dan? On the football field.
We still do.
Right.
In fact, there was a game some point this year at the NFL just a couple of weeks ago, which the placeholder had the laces in.
Yeah.
And you know what happened? They missed that field goal. There was the whole 10-year challenge.
Yep.
That you've been seeing on Facebook. Somebody did Finkel.
Oh.
And you can about imagine what the 10-year was after that. But did you ever watch In Living Color?
Yes. Yeah, I did.
Somebody out there helped me out at the Eye Consultants of North Dakota because Jim Carrey had the fire marshal, and I cannot remember his name.
Fire Marshal Bill.
Bill. Okay, it was Bill. Thanks for ruining the fun for everyone else.
I'm sorry. I missed the first part of that. I was just so excited to answer. But how about this? He makes a cameo appearance in another 90s Jim Carrey classic that you wouldn't expect. I'd be willing to bet there's not a lot of texters that know that one.
Wait, now what? Repeat what you said.
So Jim Carrey
makes a cameo in a Jim Carrey show.
Fire Marshal Bill in a Jim Carrey movie from the 90s. Not one you would expect. And I can see you racking your brain to try to come up with it. It's just a split second in the background of a scene.
I'm going to assume it's The Truman Show.
It's not. It's not.
Okay, then The Cable Guy.
Also wrong.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody out there knows 35270. I'm going to get back to the text club. What movie would you send out there on Jim Carrey? But people are taking me to task. It's not all of you. Some of you have my back. Thanks. About voting rights. This one, though, stands out. Tyler, you made a comment during your discussion of the poor morale at the Fargo PD. You wondered if it was due to the pandemic and officers being pushed to their limits. Very interesting observation. The hatred has increased triple-fold. Go to a sporting activity and watch the people brawl. Where is the fix? And I want to make clear that I wonder if the pandemic and being pushed to the limits is a part of the conversation or part of the reason, because you can read the exit interviews and it seems quite obvious that those that were providing commentary and why they're leaving it, some of that did revolve around leadership in the department. But I do have to imagine, because it is happening nationwide, it might be more noticeable in certain areas, like perhaps in Fargo here, and we're going to find out more, I assure you, tomorrow, because there's meetings being held. But you can't. This isn't happening in a vacuum. As far as people quitting jobs, that's why, again, when I go to the list of the ones that I've seen headlines of the most: law enforcement, nurses, teachers. Those are three areas in which I think the burnout is perhaps higher than some other industries, and you're seeing an increase in burnout in those as well. I think about truck drivers. I think about those that are on the front lines on any given day. So I do wonder if this does play a role in the rapid exhaustion and burnout in that activity. And you can't ignore the environment of which the conversation's been down when it comes to just law enforcement practices, excessive force. I mean, there's been high-profile cases of which we've questioned altogether the role of which law enforcement's playing in our communities. So you add that, and I understand the environment has to play a role. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't something internally that cannot be dealt with. And that's what I think tomorrow is going to be the tiptoe towards that. Is there any change that needs to be made? Is there a change in attitudes internally that needs to be acknowledged and actually do that self-reflection? And that's what I kind of read into some of those exit interview comments, that there seems to be some sort of people are oblivious to the internal dynamics, and until they address some of that, you're not going to see this turn around. But they're going to have the opportunity to explain what they have been working on. Now, as far as the increased anger or hatred, however you want to dub it, how do you fix it? Where is it? I have no clue. I mean, I'm seeing what you're seeing. I mean, we just watched what was Super Wild Card Weekend, which I'm going to have a conversation with my pal Derek Hansen here in a moment, that adding, to where you have 7 teams, that was a mistake by the NFL. But the fan bases that lost, you think about Dallas throwing stuff at referees, hitting their own players. You think about the Eagles fighting amongst themselves and others. It just the anger and the willingness to just be as disruptive as possible seems a lot more accepted now than what it was, I'd say, 10 years ago. More people willing to partake. You watch any video from somebody on an airplane that didn't want to listen to the rules of the business that they purchased the ticket from. Or you're seeing people sit in an Olive Garden. I think it was in New York. You had people that were so upset about what their requirements were to go in and have your Olive Garden lunch or meal, endless breadsticks. That's still a thing? I don't know. But they sat in the lobby until the business said, you know what? We're not going to kick you out. We're just going to stop. We're closing up for the day. I mean, you're seeing this time and time again. Where do you fix it? I do not know. Stop glamorizing it. That could be a spot. We are making a lot of stupid people famous. Can I just say that as blunt as I can? And a lot of those individuals are, quite frankly, then running for office and winning. And then they're setting an example of, look, this behavior, there's nothing wrong with it. You can go on and do whatever you want. No accountability. And I don't know how you change it. I don't. And if anybody out there has an idea, you can join the same text club of 35270. That's the Ag Consultants of North Dakota. I'm broadcasting from the Outlet Recreation Studio. I want to thank them for sponsoring the studio for this week as well. I'm going to get you a weather update in just a little bit. We'll recap all that happened in the weekend that was sports. I've got quotes coming in from Jim Carrey movies. I do appreciate all that. We'll have a little bit of fun in the final hour. Stick around.
Steve Alberson here with another News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Derek
Mighty
Hansen, Couch Potato Radio. Did you see that?
From It Takes Two.
Doug here with the morning crew this morning.
News Radio.
Amy Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Forces.
Too tall.
Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page, and send us a text anytime at 35270.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just giving the greatest good. If they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall.
I want everybody to settle down.
People down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, "Man, I'm going to do this." When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
So today on MSUM campus we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to
I mean, Me, Myself, and Irene's a good addition to the conversation. That is a good movie. How about The Cab Driver? I'm not familiar with The Cab Driver. That comes into 3.
Unless that was a comment on the professions that are feeling burnt out post-pandemic.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot more sense than Jim Carrey. Yeah, I could have bought him. The drivers in general. I how many Uber and Lyft drivers do I have listening to me right now that, I know when I was in Frisco, for example, you have to check a box saying you have this. And the attitudes, I think, from any particular driver, I'm sure vary. But for those that are wanting to take, the extra precautions versus those that don't, I can about imagine how much more of a stress level, the burnout factor of all this, because you're going and picking up strangers. Granted, you can have the whole rating system on how the ride was before, so you might know what you're getting yourself into. So, yeah, I can understand that, but also, just the cab driving industry in general of being burnt out about all this. And, that's why I say that the burnout factor across the board for a lot of people. I just think it's probably heightened, and this is just my opinion, that law enforcement, nurses, teachers are the 3 that probably have the most going on right now. You can continue that. I know somebody had talked about those on the rail industry as well. And that's why I added in there a little bit earlier when it comes to trucking and moving your supplies as well. We're going to have a conversation likely tomorrow about the morale on this. I know that we got a city commissioner coming on to talk about this after the meeting wraps up, but also the supply chain, the whole inflation thing. We do have a conversation that's be coming to you tomorrow about that, because the workers that we're speaking of when it comes to the dock workers, they're burnt out. Remember that we had the port open 24/7? Well, that's taking its toll. And have you really been seeing the products get to you any more quickly? We'll have that conversation tomorrow. Here's what's coming up after we get you caught up with CBS News, though. Derek Hansen, host of Couch Potato Radio, break down the weekend that was in sports. Got that coming up. Also, more of your messages. Tyler, Georgia's 60% white and 32% black. Do the white people vote in the different places, or the blacks is what comes in? That's what this text is. The only ones that have to go with the new voting laws. No, here's what I was trying to get at here. In certain areas, in certain precincts, you limit how many polling opportunities and how many places where you can vote. And they have closed some of those down, making those lines at other locations. You have to go there further out to get to the place, but then you have to wait in longer lines because you don't have as many places. That's not necessarily being done across the board. It's in certain precincts. And that's where I would say that our African-American voters in Georgia do have to wait in longer lines. Continue the debate. That's why have these little things to make it more difficult or less enticing to do so? I don't think it's necessarily going to work. I think people are still going to show up. They're just going to not be able to get handed water, for example. Those little things that lack common sense are the things that might have some of the larger impacts. That's where I'm coming from. We'll get you caught up on the national news. More Afternoons Live right after this.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page, and send us a text anytime at 35270.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just getting the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
So today on MSUM campus we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Rusty Halverson here with another Dynamite Agri News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Derek
Mighty
Hansen, Couch
790.
Potato Radio. Did you see that?
From It Takes Two.
Doug Miller with the morning crew this morning.
Paul Jerkins News Radio.
Katie Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Force.
Too tall,
Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Access, your home.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
About the weekend that was in sports. Super Wild Card weekend. Was it a mistake to expand the number of teams allowed into the playoffs? I say yes. We'll see what Derek Hansen has to say after this. But here is your fact checker today. This is from President Joe Biden. As a youth, he says, I got arrested protesting for civil rights. That's a claim he said.
Are we saying whether he said it or whether he actually got arrested?
Oh, he said it. Is the claim factual?
Oof. I'm gonna say no.
That's right. This is false. I don't know why he said it. I don't know why he said, "Hey, as a youth, I was arrested protesting for civil rights." So, okay, here's where, if you're short on time, which we are, we got 15 seconds. Biden may have participated in one of the two flare-ups over racial discrimination in housing near his hometown in Delaware when he was a teenager. However, there's zero evidence that Biden was actually arrested. in either the legal sense or in and how an ordinary listener would have likely taken that comment. So don't share that if you see that one online. KFG News now with Paul Juergens. Take it away.
And it is mostly cloudy, 28. 3 men have been arrested for the burglary of a home under construction near Horace. The Cass County Sheriff's Office says a resident reported suspicious activity early this morning. The caller was able to provide deputies with a vehicle description and a direction to travel. Deputies spotted the vehicle about 3 miles west of Horace and conducted a traffic stop. 28-year-old Cody Foster and 24-year-old Alex Gary were arrested for felony burglary. As deputies searched the property, 24-year-old Timothy Macy was also arrested. All 3 are from Fargo. A man who has been suffering from a severe case of COVID-19 and was being kept alive by a ventilator has been moved from a Twin Cities area hospital to a Texas hospital after a judge issued a restraining order stopping the hospital from turning off the machine. Scott Quiner of Buffalo was a patient at Mercy Hospital in Coon Rapids. According to his family's attorney, he was flown to Texas over the weekend. Alina Health, which runs Mercy Hospital, issued a statement saying it is grateful the family was able to find a health care center that will meet their needs, and an Anoka County judge granted a petition from Quiner's wife that prevented Mercy from disconnecting the ventilator. About 65% of all North Dakota adults have had at least one dose of a COVID vaccine, and nearly 60% have had a complete primary series. State Immunization Program Director Molly Howell, though, says while the numbers have been improving, they are still behind the national average. She says even as attempts are underway to get those eligible vaccinated and boosted, efforts will start soon to get people who are immunocompromised a second booster or fourth vaccine shot.
And so this week, it will be 5 months since that recommendation was made. And so there's a number of people who are moderately to severely immunocompromised who will be coming due in the next few weeks for their 4th dose of COVID-19 vaccine.
Howell says the second booster will apply to a limited number of people. The Fargo Theater will host a Martin Luther King Jr. celebration later today. The event starts at 6:30 this evening. It'll feature speakers, singers, dancers, poetry, and awards. Mass will be recommended, and people will be recognized at the event with Radical Change Awards. It has been 53 years since Martin Luther King's death. KFGO Weather Center forecast. Fargo-Moorhead will stay mostly cloudy tonight. Maybe a little light overnight snow and 15 to 20. Southeast wind 5 to 15. Gusts up near 25 then later. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy. A chance of light snow. Patchy blowing and drifting snow. Wind picks up, starting out of the south and then to the northwest in the afternoon. 25 miles an hour or so with gusts up near 45. Mostly cloudy tomorrow night. Areas of blowing and drifting snow. 5 to 10 below. Wednesday, the high of 5 to 10 below zero. Partly sunny. Patchy blowing and drifting snow. Thursday, sunny. High to 5 to 10 below. And Friday, partly sunny. A chance of light snow. 20 to 25. Fargo-Moorhead. It is cloudy and 28. Paul Juergens, News Radio, KFGO.
Derek Hansen, host of Couch Potato Radio, joins me in the KFGO studio. We recap the weekend that was in sports. You ever been arrested?
Can't say I have.
Okay.
I got a minor in consumption once.
Yeah, that's not...
Sophomore year of college. And the Otter Tail County deputy putting me in the back. And it was one of those things, too, at the time. I mean, I think it was $56 and I mailed it in.
See, I have been transported by a police officer in the backseat, but I was not handcuffed and there was no rights read. And they did not bring me to jail. So I was not arrested.
So gray area
I've
for you.
been transported.
You know what I was, and it's funny because when I was substitute teach, these kids would just flat out ask you,
Yeah.
And
Hey,
I'm not going to lie and say, yeah, I got a minor. And I told them that you didn't have to go in front of a judge or anything. I'm like, yeah, because even at the time, our senior get together got busted. And that's a long story, but they all go in front of a judge over that, So I thought, man, that's a lot of kids that had to go appear for a $100 fine. $100 fine in 1991 was, pretty stiff at the time, but mine was like $60. 56. Why 56 is in my mind. I just kind of shrugged my shoulders.
I had to pay a similar fine on that side of the river, but I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
In 2003 in Grand Forks, it was $75.
75? Okay.
Yeah.
It had.
North Dakota was always cheaper.
Well, yeah. I mean, have you ever gotten pulled over for a speeding ticket?
Yes.
Yeah. Trust me, you don't even notice it.
Yeah, I had $14 once outside. Because that stretch from I-29 to Mayville, it was down to 40 or something, and it seems like it's really out of town, so it's kind of weird. He got me, so I paid it. Whatever.
Derek, that qualifies as being arrested. This text person. I don't think so. I don't think
it's a citation.
Yeah, no, you're just getting transported. And then you weren't getting transported.
I wasn't transported. No, he gave me a ticket. He gave me a citation.
No,
you
didn't get to go for a ride.
I mean, I think when you get arrested, you're. I didn't go to jail or anything. I just got a citation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was in the mail.
I sent it in the mail. I mean, I wrote a check and I sent it to Ottertail County. It wasn't,
Tyler, 50 years ago, I was arrested for protesting at NDSU. There was no record of it because I was a minor. So I'm just going off of what PolitiFact said, that there's no evidence that Joe Biden was arrested for protesting for civil rights. But maybe he was a minor. I don't know. He said he was a youth.
I can't imagine those protests in Delaware.
Yes.
Just got to be. I can't imagine the havoc that he wreaked.
Had our senior class got busted, by the way, there would have only been 16 in us. The judge would have not cared at all. Like, all right, next.
Well, there's a few more in ours. It actually made the form. Yeah.
Did they go in alphabetical order?
I don't know. I went. The craziest thing for me is I let's say walked away from where everything was going on.
Oh yeah. You found the woods.
Yeah. I walked because one of my friends didn't live too far away. Then I walked back thinking the coast is clear to get my pickup.
No.
And then
I'm sure it was a very nice, slow-paced walk too. You weren't rushed.
Well, what's funny about that, and he's just a great man. He's I think for all the Minnesota troopers listening out there, Randy Harms, who's no longer with us, and he pulled me over one time for a seatbelt ticket, and it was $10. He's so nice. I mean, just a really nice guy. And then he stopped me for this. He goes, "Oh, Derek, he remembered because it was like 2 months before that."
Oh, really?
So
first
then,
name basis.
So then I blew the breathalyzer.
Yeah,
I blew in the breathalyzer, and he said, "Well, it's your lucky day. Nothing registered." And I said, "Oh, good." I must have walked it off.
Maybe the adrenaline of that heart racing.
Well, that probably did help a little bit for sure. So.
Well, this I didn't call you in to talk about your run-ins with the law.
Yeah, so when the kids would ask you about stuff like this, I just say, "Do as I say, not as I did." Because I said you can't get away with what I did.
That's why learning history and then not repeating.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Here's another question that's very personal to ask you. Have you ever cried because your professional or collegiate team has lost?
What age would you give me on this one?
I saw grown men crying down at Dallas.
My favorite was the guy who really, I mean, he outkicked his coverage with the smoke show that he had. The guy with the chain and the star there. Yeah, I'm like, okay, buddy, you two need to. I mean, come on. I really wanted to go. I said this while Jack Michaels was kind of getting today. I said, I'm going to send you some VHS tapes of the Cowboys of the 90s.
The Cowboys of the 90s.
Yeah.
That's the thing on like the NFL Network. It was nothing but Cowboys-Niners, that rivalry. Yeah. And then, of course, you get to the 90s and it's just a domination.
Those two teams dominated the 90s for sure. And the Packers, of course, had their little flasher of the 2 years that they won the NFC. But no, it was really, really what a game that was. Kind of an ugly game. And I think for Dallas, they just leave so much. If it wasn't for the fact that they have 5 Super Bowls, you look at them the past 25 years and what a mess they've been, right? I mean, just only 3 playoff wins. You wouldn't think of that because this doesn't seem all that long ago. They were dominating the NFL.
I know. I saw people, as the kids say, dunking on the Cowboys today, and they're listing out how many other players have won more playoff games. And they talk about Trent Dilfer winning more playoff games with the Cubs. Jake Delhomme, Carolina Panthers, they're like, okay, they've at least won 5 over the last however many years. You think about it being America's team that you're expecting. You have Jerry Jones that, he has this persona that he settles for nothing less than winning Super Bowls, and yet they have not gotten there. They have not won playoff games.
He is part of the problem.
I would agree. I would absolutely agree.
I mean, there might be a thing, too. It's kind of funny. The Vikings have a very hands-off ownership group. The Wilfs, they fly in from New Jersey to wherever the game was that week, right? They don't spend a lot of time at TCO Performance Center. It's kind of a thing. I've been down there as a media member where, the Wilfs are here. And, they're going to have Mark Wilfs going to give a little presser. And it's kind of one of those things. So it's very, very different where Jerry's every day. Jerry has his own radio show in Dallas. I mean, you can't have the owner having a radio show. I'm sorry. That's not how it should be.
Jerry thinks that he is the star of the Dallas Cowboys, and that's not what you want in an owner.
No, not at all. I mean, you want your owner to kind of be behind the scenes and let the players and the coach and the general manager do all that. But he's the general manager. I mean, there's nothing like – you can love football. You can have your input, but, I think that you got to really let the GM be the GM, let the coach be the coach. And that's been a problem there ever since he fired Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, yep. And Jimmy Johnson was becoming a star. He was winning Super Bowls.
Right. And that was part of the problem with that relationship, too. And the one that Barry Switzer coached, I mean, I think you or I could have coached that. I mean, that team was so jacked with talent that it's just unreal.
So you bring up the Vikings, and they've had a long list of GM candidates, long list of coaching candidates, and one of them that was brought up was Kellen Moore, who's the offensive coordinator for Dallas. And if he made that last play call, in which you got 14 seconds left, you have Dak Prescott run and not be able to clock it in time, you don't want to bring that into an organization.
I don't know if you judge him by one play. It certainly was a head scratch, especially since the 49ers are giving the Cowboys the sideline to get out of bounds. I mean, you want to kind of almost do an umbrella to make sure that they catch over the middle of the field so you can try to tackle them. I mean, I think that burned the Vikings one of the games where they couldn't tackle the guys and they kept on running out of bounds. And you got to do that. So that's probably the only time. It's kind of an execution thing, too. Dak Prescott says, well, we practice that all the time. I just had more time. And you just got to look at it at least 10 seconds and then grab the ball and give it to the umpire. I think if anything, we all learned from that.
Yeah,
that's got to be part of it.
Yeah,
right?
You cannot place your own ball as a player. That's what the officiating crew is for.
Yeah.
Stick around because I want to know the expansion that they had. That they have 7 teams. This weekend, the Super Wild Card, there was some blowouts. There was people that were, all right, I'm not going to watch the product. Was it a mistake? I'm going to ask you when we come back. You can join the conversation at the iConsultants of North Dakota Text Club. That's at 35270. We are sitting right now in the Outlet Recreation Studio. I want to thank them for sponsoring the studio this week. More Afternoons Live right after this.
Robertson here with another Dynamo Agri News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Derek
Mighty
Hansen,
790.
Couch Potato Radio. Did you see that
from It Takes Two.
Doug Miller with the morning crew this morning.
Jerkins News Radio.
Amy Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Forces. Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just getting the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page, and send us a text anytime at 35270.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate, but also have a sense of independence.
Mondays, we recap the weekend that was in sports with Derek Hansen, host of Couch Potato Radio. I was going to ask you the question, give you a little bit of a pause to think about it. Should they have expanded to allow 7 teams into the playoffs in the NFL?
I wasn't really in favor at the time. The only thing I liked about it is the fact that you really benefit the 1 seed, right? What I didn't like about it is if the 2 seed and the 1 seed are tied in some silly tiebreaker that, then a team gets the bye off of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see him keep this schedule and this format in the NFL for the next 20-some years. I think, they're in the danger of expanding too much. I wouldn't want to see 1 through 8, that's for sure.
No.
But I wouldn't want to judge it off this year and this year alone because, blowouts can happen in playoffs. You think about the 85 Bears run. A lot of people thought that the wild card was too much, right? Because they blew out both the Rams and the Giants on their way to the Super Bowl. You've seen NFC Championship games. My team was a part of 2 of them in the past 20 years with their blowouts. 41 donut in 2001 against the Giants and against the Eagles a couple of years ago. So it's so hard to know. I just, a couple turnovers here and there can turn everything around too. And, there was a lot of, when there was 5 teams where you had the 1 and 2 seed get the bye, and then it was wild card weekend on a Sunday only, a lot of people thought going from 5 to 6 was too much. Well, then if that's the case, the Pittsburgh Steelers would have never won the Super Bowl and against the Cardinals, and then you never would have had the 2010 Green Bay Packers either. So,
well, yeah, how many wild card teams have gone on to win the Super Bowl? It's not a lot.
It's not. Well, it's more than last year's Bucks,
mm-hmm.
and then you had the first one I think to do it off the true wild card that we had with the first wild card game was the Raiders, and they upset the Eagles back in 1982, I think it was 1981. So. It does happen.
It's possible.
And I think it happened more with the 6-team expansion than it did with the 5-team, actually.
Of all the games, and Eric's saying 7. 7
out of 56.
Yeah, my gut was telling me 7 that had gone on from the wild card to go and do this.
Since 1970, so not all of the Super Bowl, but since.
Yeah, it was since wild card.
And it was much harder when it was just 5 teams because you're talking about 2 non-division winners going to play to face the number 1 seed.
Mm-hmm.
And, like when the Vikings went on and they faced the 49ers in 1987, they just crushed them. Anthony Carter that was a shock, right? And they were so close to maybe making it to the next week against the Washington football team, formerly known as the Redskins.
They're coming out with their new name here, I think.
It's pretty soon, isn't it?
I think it's about a month. I thought it was going to be in February. Now, I know we still have one game tonight. We have the first Monday night a wild card game tonight, Cardinals at Rams. But of every team you saw this weekend, what's the one you're saying, wow? For me, it's the Buffalo Bills.
It is, but then they have to go to Arrowhead, right? And who actually was pretty promising too. So, yeah, that's the teams that are left right now. You were talking about just the final ones that we're looking at, the final 90. It's pretty impressive. And you think about the quarterbacks, you got to have one.
Yeah,
and that's what when people say, why do you dislike Kirk Cousins? It's not like I dislike him. It's just I don't know if he has that it factor to win you a lot of games.
Like a Josh Allen.
Well,
five touchdowns, 4 total incompletions.
And it's not just so much the numbers that you're rattling off. It's just kind of what you're watching. Your eye test tells you, God, that guy has something. And same thing. We know with Mahomes, right? We know it with Brady. We know it with, and if you look at the guys that are left. Outside of Garoppolo, which is, I know he's just kind of getting on there, in spite of him sometimes.
He showed towards the end of yesterday's game why Trey Lance is going to be starting next year.
Exactly. He's an aggravating guy, but he does enough to get them in position. They have a good running game. They have a good defense. I mean, the 49ers are Mike Zimmer's dream, aren't they? Run the ball, play good defense, and just hope that your quarterback doesn't. Right. And that's kind of. I don't know if they have a snowball's chance in Hades on Saturday against the Green Bay Packers, but they are an interesting team to watch. It's an interesting match with the fact that the 49ers like to run the ball. If there's one weakness, is the Packers maybe give up that stat much more than they do anything else. So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. But when you have a whole week, additional week of rest, 2 weeks, I suppose, when it comes to Green Bay, wouldn't want to be going to Lambeau to play there. And I think it's a night game.
It is Saturday night.
Yeah. Saturday night, yeah.
Yeah, because they have to put tonight's winners on Sunday. So that whoever wins tonight will go to Tampa.
That was one thing that you almost felt bad for the Raiders for. I mean, didn't they have the late game that went into overtime that Sunday, and then they had to play like the early Saturday game?
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't have a chance anyway, unless that whole inadvertent whistle.
I'm glad that they ruled the way it was, because that wouldn't have mattered. There wasn't a Raider cornerback within 5 yards of him, and that whistle happened like midair. It was in the end zone by the time that the whistle happened. So I think that worked out pretty well.
I have not checked in with my Raider friends.
I texted.
Do me a welfare check, 35270.
I texted Joel Heitkamp about this last night. We were texting. Yeah, as a former official, I said, I can't believe it. The playoffs always remind me, you got to reward the best crew. This mixing and matching of the best officials of the year, that doesn't seem to be like you'd be in sync all the time. Everyone knows their positioning, where they're supposed to be, the communication. Yep. I think that is a silly move by the NFL to not have that. That's weird.
Well, and that crew, I don't think is going to be back for any other game after that. For this playoff.
For one play.
Yeah, because of the one
and the fact that Derek Carr should be penalized for flopping on that. You see that roughing the passer call?
I missed that one.
He sold it. I think they should have that. I think they should have embellishment like they do in the NHL, especially on pass interference. How many times do you see a wide receiver flop on a pass interference just because they can't reach the ball?
Yeah, going up for the flag.
Oh, I hate that. Yeah, Chris Carter started that.
Yep, he did.
It's our fault.
Yeah, thanks, Vikings fans. Hey, you know what happened on this date in 1999?
Robert Griffith missed the interception that was sewn up the game. I hate everyone blaming Gary Anderson on it. Yeah, that was one factor of many why they lost the game.
Let's talk MLB when we come back, huh? Are we going to have a season? Well, not on a happy note. I'm Tyler Axel. He's Derek Hansen. You got a lot to KFGO Fargo.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just giving the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night, the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Steve Robertson here with another another Dynamite Agri News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Derek
Mighty
Hansen, Couch Patino Radio. Did you see that?
From It Takes Two.
Doug here with the morning crew this morning.
Jerkins News Radio.
Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Forces. Too tall, Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page. And send us a text anytime at 35270.
This is KFGO News. '28 to cloudy sky. This is KFGO News. 3 men have been arrested for the burglary of a home under construction near Horace. The Cass County Sheriff's Office says a resident reported suspicious activity early this morning. The caller was able to provide deputies with a vehicle description and a direction of travel. Deputies spotted the vehicle about 3 miles west of Horace and conducted a traffic stop. 28-year-old Cody Foster and 24-year-old Alex Gary were arrested for felony burglary. As deputies searched the property, 24-year-old Timothy Macy was also arrested. All 3 men are from Fargo. The Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chambers announced that TV personality and New York Times bestselling author Mike Rowe will be the keynote speaker for the 2022 Voices of Vision event in Fargo. That event will be Thursday, April 21st at the Sanford Health Athletic Conference Complex in Fargo. A Clay County deputy who's worn the badge for nearly 50 years is preparing to retire. Herb Nelson was running a barber shop in Hawley when he told a couple of deputies who came in for haircuts that he'd be interested in working with them. He says that conversation changed his life.
Came down and brought a badge and a firearm and 5 bullets, and I was working.
In 1973, Nelson was hired as a part-time Clay County deputy. He patrolled the streets of Hawley without any formal training. In 1996, he was involved in something he says he'll never forget. Masked gunmen pretending to be law officers burst into a rural home and held a family hostage for 14 hours before trying to escape with a 10-year-old girl as their shield.
Yeah, it started on the Clay County side. He ended up Fargo side and a cul-de-sac down in South Fargo, and ended up in a shooting of an individual who had a little girl hostage with a gun to her head. Every once in a while, you still wake up at night and you rerun that whole scenario through your mind.
Nelson says he's had a great career with no regrets and plans to officially retire at the end of April, so he has time to enjoy plenty of fishing. A 37-mile ice highway in northern Minnesota that takes drivers across Lake of the Woods to the northernmost point in the contiguous U.S. is opened for the second straight year. The toll is $250 a vehicle. The road cost an estimated $1,500 per mile for plowing and other upkeep. It begins at Warroad and ends at the Northwest Angle Resort Community, which is known for its ice fishing. Winter weather advisory primarily for blowing snow, Fargo-Moorhead, going into effect tomorrow morning at 11. It'll be in effect through tomorrow evening. Fargo-Moorhead tonight, quiet, mostly cloudy, chance of light snow overnight, 15 to 20. Wind out of the southeast will pick up overnight. Then tomorrow, mostly cloudy, a chance of light snow, patchy blowing and drifting snow, 25 to 30 for the high. A windy day, southerly winds, and then northwest, up near 25 miles an hour with gusts to 45 in the afternoon. Still windy tomorrow night. Areas of blowing and drifting snow, mostly cloudy, 5 to 10 below. Wednesday, 5 to 10 below for the high. A partly sunny sky, still some blowing and drifting snow. Sunny Thursday, below 0, 5 to 10 below for the high. We should be in the 20s by Friday. Fargo-Moorhead, mostly cloudy. It's 28. Paul Juergens, News Radio, KFGO.
About 25 minutes left of Afternoons Live. Then you got the Drive Time News. I assume a short Couch Potato Radio. Then it's Monday Night Football, playoff style. You got the Arizona Cardinals. They're at L.A. taking on the Rams. We're going to break down some of that game. But also, are we going to have a baseball season? I don't know. We're going to talk about that when we come back with Derek Hansen next.
Iverson here with another Dynamite Agri News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Dear
Mighty
Kansas Couch
790.
Potato Radio. Did you see that?
It Takes Two.
Doug here with the morning crew this morning.
Jerkins News Radio.
Amy Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michael, voice of sports.
Too tall.
Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Access, your home.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just giving the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page. And send us a text anytime at 35270.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things.
Did we just hear the first political ad of 2022?
Yeah.
The first I noticed. Make up for a long year. It's January 17th. All right, the ball's rolling. So we know we got a political season. Are we going to have a baseball season with the MLB?
Yes, we will. But
confident.
What has me nervous about it is just how tone deaf the owners and the Players Association were in the summer of 2020. Which is coming up on almost 2 years ago, which is hard to believe. But because they could have started that baseball season about July 4th, and there would have been a little symbolism to that, right? That July 4th weekend, we're starting baseball. We needed the summer after what was such a dark and dreary April and May with just nothing going on.
Nothing but reruns of
So we were watching, playing back all the. It was kind of fun. It was kind of a fun summer in that aspect. I wouldn't ever want to do it again.
Right.
But it was kind of fun here in those World Championship games and stuff. That's how pathetic we are as Minnesota sports fans. We had to have a pandemic to relive some great memories, but they need to start. I mean, because for baseball, it's kind of unique, almost like NASCAR, where the best part of their season for most of the teams is the start of the season.
Mm-hmm.
The Daytona 500 starts NASCAR. Spring training, the start of everyone's, especially in the upper Midwest and the Northeast when it's cold and rainy and stuff.
Spring's around the corner.
Spring's coming up. Hearing the crack of the bat, hearing Corey Provist's voice and John Gordon and Herb Carneal before him. As a Minnesotan, this is a big part of your kind of getting out of that cabin fever mode. And to not have that right away is going to be absolutely miserable. That's why 2020 was miserable for a lot of people. He didn't have that right away. We had a nice spring that year, but outside of the pandemic. But, I'm getting that. I think baseball, they cannot afford to give up one of those things that they really have the grasp on America on, and that's the beginning of the season to start spring.
I had somebody ask me this week, and I'm doing this on air, and maybe it's inappropriate, but wondering about the Twins Winter Caravan.
It's canceled.
It's canceled.
Yeah.
I thought I'd seen a headline over the weekend.
And that's
they pulled the plug
twofold,
on it.
obviously, right? With the Omicron going on, and also they can't bring players with because they're locked out. So there's nothing there. I mean, they could probably do a little bit of stuff with bringing some, former players if they want to get after them too. But you want your former players who are in their 70s coming and being around a lot of people right now. So it's kind of twofold. I'm kind of speaking for them, but just not a surprise. Unfortunately, 2 years in a row, no Twins Winter Caravan.
I know, because those are so fun.
And they are the best. So that's really disappointing. But yeah, the players, they've been talking a little bit about trying to get the arbitration years, and before you become a free agent, moving it up a year. The owners are not interested in that. Obviously, the owners want to maybe tighten up a little bit of the luxury tax or do something different. Obviously, the players don't want that. So that's going to be kind of a give and take thing, I think, when it comes down to it more than anything else. But yeah, millionaires fighting with billionaires. It's so much fun.
I know, and I'm surprised how many people want to side with the billionaires in this whole thing. Sometimes it seems.
Well, I think part of it is we know what the players make, right? We don't exactly know what
that's fair.
What the owners bring in. And I know they're bringing a lot of money with TV rights. They were way ahead of the game on their app. I mean,
I know the MLB app. Yeah.
I mean, WWE actually hired them to start their WWE network, Major League Baseball, because they were so far ahead. Because you got a lot of guys who like numbers and stuff who like baseball. Those are the kind of guys, and they obviously know how to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're IT guys, and they got it going. And so they're making a boatload of money off all their web stuff more than anything else. Because it seems natural if you're looking for stats all the time. Major League Baseball daily, unlike football where we can all do it on a Monday, right? It makes sense. So they're making a lot of money in baseball. And the thing that's different compared to like the NHL with Major League Baseball and football and all the others is that they make their money off of everything but ticket sales now. Ticket sales help, don't get me wrong, but that's why those sports could survive no fans in the stands more than some of the other sports.
It's interesting to watch how the NHL has handled things as you bring up Omicron, and how the NFL has, or how the NBA, how
the fact that they can only have 250 people in the stands at Winnipeg, and then you see 90,000 people at Texas for that game yesterday,
crying, sobbing, sobbing. That image is seared. I love my teams. I have never got to the point that I almost broke down because we lost a game. I don't care.
I think I was in sixth grade the last time it happened.
Okay, so anytime that, you were old enough. Well, at what point are you old enough? Say, look, it's just a game. 10?
I think
pick out 10.
I would say about the time that you are much more interested in girls than you are the actual football game is about the time you give it
There's
up.
There's no crying in baseball.
I've been upset. I actually kind of shook my head and snickered as I was walking out of the Metrodome after they lost to Atlanta. So
so
I was there. But driving home in an ice storm was great.
Not crying though.
No, I was not crying. I just listened to Fan Line and just shook my head and
have the the disappointment.
You get just another chapter of disappointment for the Vikings, and so no, you can't do that. But hopefully, we can get this thing going.
No, as I say, so you're confident that we will have a baseball season.
I just can't tell you if it's going to start on March 31st or if it's going to start, in May.
Yeah, well, I've got people wondering, hey, you getting Chris Atterbury back on? Well, yeah, we both want to. We don't know if we can actually do that because it's part of the organization, which we can't. So it's
touchy.
Hoping, yes, we don't have answers. But we hope.
Yeah, because the owners don't want their employees talking about the labor strife, right? I mean, that's
correct,
that's the tough part about it. So if we can get some people who work for Valley Sports and stuff like that to start off, but I wish I could give you more answers on it. But no, it's the first talks didn't go all that well. It doesn't seem to really change, but they need to get something done by February 1st. I think for everything, we're talking 3.5 weeks before catchers and pitchers are supposed to report.
God, that's
nice. Not a long time.
I know it's not in a long time, but that, as you're saying, that's right around the corner.
Lock them up in a hotel conference room and get this done.
Yep, no
Honestly,
one's leaving until we put pen to paper.
Yeah,
because if they don't have a season, the damage that'll do to that the entire league is. And you think about the revenue that these guys, both millionaires and billionaires, will lose in the long term if they don't even have this season.
Well, that and interest too. I mean, they're already trying to struggle with their pace of game, right?
Correct.
So here you are in 1994, 95, early 95, when they didn't have, they canceled what was a great baseball season, 94. Didn't have a World Series. I mean, it's unthinkable that they didn't have a World Series in 1994. Montreal Expos has pretty much killed their organization. That's why they're in Washington right now. And to think that they're going to do this again, it's unthinkable that they could screw this up, because it really surpassed not only NFL. The NFL was kind of becoming number one already, but I remember a time when baseball was the number one sport in this country. NFL surpassed it, and then it was number one with a bullet after that strike. And the NBA with Jordan and the Bulls surpassed Major League Baseball in popularity. And that's where we're sitting. They're still number 3 even after that. It's just hard to believe.
Well, you say, God, I just couldn't imagine. You are aware that we're living in quite stupid times right now. I wouldn't be surprised with anything. I hope. I really do. I want a season, but I'm not as confident as you are right now.
Well, I think they will get something done. It's just a matter of when they get it done, and then, when are we going to get everyone ready to play? We don't want to have these pitchers go in there without having a lot of training. Exactly. So that's the thing. They all work it out at home. I mean, they had a short turnaround, during 2020 to start the season in August, late July, August, but hopefully they can get it going here soon, because I don't know if not hearing much news is good news or bad news, right? And that's the thing.
Yeah, the no news is good news, I think, most of the time, but not all the time.
Right, exactly.
Derek Anthony's host of Couch Potato Radio. You stick around and see what's coming up with the Drive Time News. Your truncated Couch Potato Radio. Of course, we got football tonight here on KFGO. Got to get you that weather update. Eric Johnson will take care of that for you as Too Tall is away. He'll be back tomorrow. We'll wrap up Afternoons Live on a Monday next.
Forecast from the KFGO Weather Center. Tonight, mostly cloudy with a chance of some light snow overnight. Winds out of the southeast, 15 to 20 miles an hour. Some gusts up over 25 overnight. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy. Continued chance of some light snow. Patchy, blowing, and drifting snow will develop with winds 25 to 30 out of the south, switching around to the northwest. Tomorrow night, mostly cloudy, continued areas of blowing and drifting snow with a low between 5 and 10 below. Wednesday, partly sunny, patchy, blowing and drifting snow again with a high of 5 to 10 below zero. Wednesday night, mostly clear, lows in the low 20s below zero. For your Thursday, sunny, high 5 to 10 below. And Friday, partly sunny, chance of some light snow with a high of 20 to 25 above zero. It's currently 28 degrees at the KFGO studios. Final segment of Afternoons Live with Tyler Axis coming up right after this.
as we were discussing the world of sports, Wild are in overtime right now, 3-3.
They are. They were down 2-1 for pretty much the last half of the game, and now they tied it up. So, yeah, very interesting. And they're playing well right now. And if they're hanging with Colorado, who's like the hottest team in the NHL, especially with all the players that they're missing, that's pretty impressive. Kirill, you think about it, some of the young stars that Minnesota sports has, as much as we kind of say, woe is me about it. Justin Jefferson, Kirill Kaprizov, Anthony Edwards, and Karl Anthony Towns. Trying to think, Byron Buxton, if he stays healthy for the Twins. I mean, they do have some guys that you can really go to.
The talent is
they just got to put it all together, right?
Exactly. And
so pretty exciting times as far as that is concerned. Just more wins.
Optimism. I mean, there's a reason for optimism in Minnesota sports.
Well, yeah, but you want it to be better than when you think about when this town was sitting there and they start in the early 2000s. They had Randy Moss, Joe Mauer, Torrey Hunter, and KG.
Hall of Famers, yeah. Hall of Famers, yeah.
Marion Gaborik, I guess, early on in the early part of the, but they made it to the playoffs within 2 years. They made it in 2003. But that's just, there's been some star power, just haven't been able to put anything together with it. Not all cities have struggled, you could say that. I mean, the Browns didn't have a star from the time that the first Browns moved to Baltimore and came back up until Baker Mayfield, and is he even a star at this point?
Well, I mean, the only thing that was probably between there was, you have LeBron James, as far as Cleveland, but it's other places have had it worse, but he came back. He got him a title, then he left again.
Yeah.
What's coming up on the Drive Time News and Couch Potato Radio?
Well, I'll kind of talk about this weather coming up, also keep you up to date on traffic, tell you about the day in Wall Street. It kind of ended with a clunker on Friday. We'll see if it rebounds here this Monday. And we'll also chat a little bit about not much for markets today, so we don't have that from Rusty. Some ag news coming up from Rusty Halverson. Another ride with Joel Heitkamp, the KFGO Morning Crew Music Rewind. Good news and much, much more on the way. And I have sports for you. Matt English is going to do a high school game tonight featuring pretty interesting game with Kindred and Edgeley Colma. They had a big rematch from the championship game last year. And so that should be a lot of fun. But here's a stat from yesterday's, or I should say Saturday night's game. Josh Allen had more touchdown passes than incompletions.
5 touchdowns, 4 incompletions.
And the Buffalo Bills are the first NFL team to play a perfect offensive game in history. Think about that.
Yeah, because they scored every time. And the only time they didn't score was the kneel down towards the end of the game.
It's unbelievable.
So that's why I said that out of this weekend thus far, Bills were the most impressive for me.
Now, what's more impressive, the fact that not only they trounced the Patriots, but they did against Bill Belichick, who's the GOAT of coaches, right? We all can, with all apologies to Vince Lombardi and Chuck Noll and all the other great ones. I mean, come on. You make it to 9 Super Bowls, and same thing with Tom Brady.
Yeah, and we're talking about good defense, too. Yeah. I think they're in the top 10, top 5 defense in New England, and then to have every Bills possession go for a touchdown, that's impressive.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It really is. So, yeah, hats off to them for what they're able to do. And now, to me, I think that's the game of the weekend, isn't it? The Bills and Chiefs again. That was a great game last. It just Bills came up short last year, but I'm sure they're thinking about that quite a bit.
Stephon Diggs, you remember that photo? As he was the Bills, he stood out there and watched them celebrate for Kansas City. He said, "You know what? Next year." Well, here they are.
Here we are.
Now
they have time to step up.
Yeah, Stephon Diggs might get that redemption that he's waited a whole year. We got about 30 seconds left of this game. 25 seconds, still tied. So.
Could have a shootout.
Could have one.
We'll keep you up to date on that then for sports.
Yeah, there you go. Talk about that and quite frankly, all the basketball happening. Folks, tomorrow, going to have a full show. We're going to try to bring you that supply chain situation because product's moving, but not at the rate of which I know we all want it, and it's not as cheap as what we had been hoping by this time as well. That inflation rate that we were talking about last week, we're going to try to get that expert on for you tomorrow. But also, how we started today talking about the reporting of the morale when it comes to the Fargo PD. We're going to be visiting with some city commissioners about the meetings that are going to take place between now and then. I understand why they didn't want to come on and visit today about it because, quite frankly, they're going to learn more and hear both sides of this, I do imagine, and then can have a better informed conversation tomorrow. I just know that when it comes to burnout and when it comes to just what is said in these exit interviews, there's got to be more discussed because it's about public safety. So we'll have all that and so much more coming up from the Outlet Recreation Studio. Again, I want to thank them for sponsoring the studio all week here on Afternoons Live. Folks, that is it for me today. I'm Tyler Axis, your host here on Afternoons Live. Again, tomorrow I'm going to have a full show, bringing you all the sights and sounds of the area. Until then, you take care of yourselves. I'm going to check in on you right here on 790 AM, 104.7 FM, and, of course, worldwide at kfgo.com.